Hi folks, welcome to the Inside Track with Scotty's Son. Got Jim here with me, or should I say informed Jim Delahunt after napping up the Irish Grand National winner. You were 2-2 at Musselburgh on Saturday as well, Jim. You're doing it on both codes at the moment. Must have been a great weekend for you and a great Easter Monday.
Yeah, it was very, very good indeed. I have to give credit to Sean Bowen, though, for that Irish Grand National ride. Absolutely superb. He had the horse in the right place throughout, kept him out of trouble, and the horse was jumping really, really well for him. I think about a mile out, I thought he was going to win. I was very confident he was going to hold off all comers, and he did. I thought he won with a little bit in hand. Delighted for the trainer as well. She's gone through a wee bit of a rough patch, but she's got some half decent horses now. And that horse is going to go on and win another big one. I mean, they don't come much bigger than a €500,000 Irish Grand National, but well capable of winning another big race. And Sean Bowen, I mean, he's going to be crowned champion jockey at Sandown on Saturday. Thoroughly deserved, absolutely outstanding season. And it's just nice to see him get a big race win as well. The two winners at Musselburgh, yeah, we flagged those up. Delighted with that. Jim Goldie having American Affair primed to win a £50,000 handicap first time out, and the ground was okay for Kihava. I think even the owners were slightly worried about that, but the ground was absolutely fine. And again, jockey gets the credit here. PJ McDonald stuck to the inside rail, the gaps opened up, and he went through and won. So another big prize for that one on the horizon, I'm told, at Newmarket on 1,000 Guineas Day. So we'll see how all that pans out. But we're happy with those winners at the moment.
Well, we're back to the jumping for 3 days at Perth, which is shaping up to be absolutely fantastic. We've got Willie Mullins against Dan Skelton back in Scotland this week. Got some cracking races, especially this novice hurdle tomorrow, which in my mind is the best race ever run at Perth Racecourse. I would say certainly the deepest. I mean, this race would not look out of place at one of the Grade One tracks, would it?
No, it really wouldn't. It's an absolutely fantastic field. 14 runners, and I think we've got 84 runners across the card. Another 83 on Thursday. We don't quite have the decks yet for Friday, but that's shaping up to be busy as well, Robert. And this race for they call it the Gold Castle National Hunt Novices Hurdle. It's a listed race. It's over 3 miles, remember, which is an interesting trip for one in particular, which I'm going to come to, and that's Dedicated Hero for Sandy Thompson and Ryan Mania. But I think you've had a right good look at this race, and the money has already been in there for Mr. Megget, John Joe and AJ O'Neill, with John Joe Jr. in the saddle.
Yeah, I mean, I was at Aintree and watched this horse, watched John Joe Jr. watching himself on the television all the way
Yeah,
down
yeah.
the home straight. I mean, he was absolutely cantering all over them. He must have had 3 or 4 looks at himself on the big screen and then just ploughed through the last. Couldn't get his momentum again, ends up fading into fourth after 4 months, 5 months off, I think it was. He's clearly a hugely talented horse, pretty fragile though. I mean, he doesn't seem to run very often. The fact that they're backing him up again here pretty quickly I think is a good sign. If he's come on for that run, I think he'll be very hard to beat. But you could make a case for 4 or 5. I mean, loads of these horses have been running in Grade Ones and Grade Twos, and the fact that Manila Rescue, who was second in the Sefton that day, is as big
Yeah.
a price as 12-1, just shows you how competitive this race is. But Mr. Meggett's the one that just looks to have the star appeal for me. What do you think?
Well, the one I'm taking a chance on, and I'm actually taking a big chance on it because I'm going to nap it, and that is number 6, Horace's Peril. Fergal O'Brien's got a runner earlier on the card, which I think we might mention shortly, but he runs this Horace's Peril here. The horse is 5 out of 6. It's won 3 bumpers and 2 hurdles. 2 out of its 3 hurdles. Was beaten last time in a Grade One at Aintree. Connor Brace rides it all the time, so don't be surprised that Johnny Burke's not on it. It's Connor's mount. I thought nothing went right for it at Aintree. Made a few mistakes. Connor was pushing and shoving, scraping along, couldn't quite get there. And I thought it ran very well indeed to finish fifth. Goes up to 3 miles here. I think the trip will suit. I don't think there'll be any problem going right-handed whatsoever. Fergal O'Brien's horses, I mean, I don't need to tell anybody watching this. They are absolutely flying. Absolutely flying. And I think Horace's Peril has a real cracking chance in this listed company going up to 3 miles here, and I'm going to give it the nap selection in the Scottish Sun on Wednesday. But I do want to mention one which I touched on earlier, Dedicated Hero. This horse missed the big Grade 2 at Kelso last month. Sandy Thompson, Ryan Mania. It was found casting its box on the morning of the race, so clearly it couldn't run. But they found this other race for it. If it stays the 3 miles, Robert, I think it will run a huge race. That's the question mark for me, whether it gets 3 miles. We'll find out soon enough tomorrow. But Dedicated Hero, I think at 25-1. whatever you're backing in this race, I would have a very small saver on that one just in case it turns out that it stays 3 miles. But Horace's Peril for me is going to be the nap.
I mean, Dedicated Hero's a Grade 2 winner, so over 2 miles, but have to have a lot of respect for it. What do you make of the Mullins ones? I mean, he's got Kiss Will, which ran at the festival, and I think he's got 3 in this race.
Yeah, he's got You Ought to Know, which is the mount of Danny Mullins. He's got Paul Townend on Kiss Will, and he's got Rachel riding Ballygunner Castle. Now, you would have to say that all of their form stands up to the closest scrutiny. I'm not going to write any of them off. They just look to me as if they're second stroke, third division Mullins horses. They might well be good enough to win a listed race at Perth. Good luck. He's chasing the money, quite right too. But I'll just leave them to the side for this race.
Then at 3:18, we've got a cracking 3 mile mares chase as well. Mullins is going to have the favourite with Fun, who
Yeah.
seems to be the clear pick on the numbers. Also got Pagan for the Donnellys in this race as well. Willie Mullins trained too. You've got El Elefante, who I feel sorry for the connections. They're kind of getting swept up in the Skelton Mullins title race, because this has been the plan for El Elefante for quite a while. And they're now going to bump into a horse that's rated 149, they're rated 136, so they're going to be right up against it. But do you see Fun winning under Townend, or is there anything else in the race you can maybe flag up?
No, I'm not going to flag up anything here other than to confirm what you've just said. I think Fun looks the one to be in the winners enclosure at the end of the race. I haven't looked at prices. I think it will be short. Paul Townend is riding this one for Willie. Harry Cobden, interestingly, who has turned out to be Willie Mullins' go-to jockey in Britain this season. He's on Pagan. So you wouldn't rule that one out either, especially in those Donnelly colours. And all the Mullins horses run on their merits, of course. They're running for different owners. El Elefante might win. She won a race, was it Warwick or somewhere down there, which she wasn't expected to win. So if something goes wrong with the other two, then you would say that El Elefante has some decent form in the book. But it's not a race I'm going to bet on. One to watch for me, Robert.
Yeah, if we just go back to the start of the card at 2:18, there's
Yeah.
a second race in the card. There's a 2.5 mile novice handicap, which looks really competitive. But there's one I quite like in this Denimethi. You mentioned Fergal O'Brien there. The Fergal O'Brien mob, they love coming up here. I mean, Perth's their summer focus. They
Yeah.
love coming up and having a right good time here. I just think Denimethi's up £3 for finishing second to a horse called Homdun Swar at Market Raising. That horse has won since. The third's also won since. This horse, I think, has to go right-handed. Its best form is going that way around. And Fergo's got a 24% strike rate with his chasers at Perth. So it's definitely, we know he targets the track. We know he loves this meeting. I saw the price of that was 9 to 1. I thought that just looked a bit overpriced to me. So Denimethi in the 2:18.
That sounds like a good recommendation to me. I looked at the race. I marked 3 on my card. One was Denimethi. One was Rattling Road for Lucinda Russell. Jack Power taking £5 off that one. I think that's a very progressive horse, despite being 8 already. And the one down at the bottom, Dan Skelton and Harry in the saddle, you just cannot rule these guys out at the moment. They're picking up 8 grand here, 10 grand there, 12 grand here, just trying to stave off the Willie Mullins challenge all the way up to Saturday night. And I suspect Nick's Left might run a big race there too. But I'm with you on Denimethi. I think it'll run a huge race, and I hope it wins.
Yeah, it just looked a big price to me at 9 to 1 there. And then at 3:48, we've got a 2 mile handicap chase, which I quite like Paris Encore in this for Nicky Richards. These form figures of 1-1-3-2 at Perth, £3 higher than his last win in March, but he's kind of suffered for being kind of ultra consistent. You know, he always runs his race.
Yeah.
Etalon comes here for the Skeltons. I mean, they had that one running at Ayr, finished fourth at Ayr, but I mean, in Class 3 company, he's got form figures of 1-1-1-2, so he's definitely to be feared. And then Voshito for Ollie Murphy, Sean Bowen, who ran riot at this meeting last year. He's run well off a break twice for the Murphy stable. Was second in a maiden hurdle at Perth last May, so he brings a bit of course form, and he's also got Sean Bowen on his back, who rides this place better than anybody. So I thought Paris Encore and Vochito probably tough to split. One's 9 to 4, one's 11 to 4. That kind of sums up their chances, I would say. But those two.
Great minds think alike, and you can fill in the rest, because those are the two that I marked. I marked Vochito for Sean Bowen, and I marked Paris Encore. Both of them, as you say, Robert, coming back off a break. I think they'll both run well off a break. Again, it's not a race I'm going to bet on, and the reason for that is that I would never rule out a horse called Pay the Piper right up the top there, Bran Hamilton and Brian Hughes. That could turn up and win this by 5 lengths on its best form. So it's one to watch, but I think you've summed it up perfectly. Paris Encore and Vachito sure to run huge races.
Yeah, and then another handicap at 422, 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. Now, backing John McConnell horses has come with a real health warning this year. You really don't know what you're going to get. But, I mean, Jumping Susie was a wide margin winner novice hurdle at Kelso under Harry Cobden last year. And he's run well fresh twice. He's been off the track for 171 days. Ben Bromley rides taking 5 off this time. The McConnell horses have just started turning a wee corner in the last few weeks. He's had 6 winners in April, so I think Jumping Susie's definitely worth a look. Another one down near the bottom is Donzo Star for Mike Smith, ridden by his son Ben Smith. This is a horse that's been well backed a few times.
Yeah.
And finishes one at Musselburgh, I think, and then it's finished second and third when it's been well backed. That one's also off a big break, but it's run well off breaks as well. And I think if it's genuine good ground tomorrow, which the chances are it's going to be, I think Donzo Star's definitely worth a closer inspection.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Robert. And the Mike Smith horse is always worth respecting when the money's down. And as you say, even off a long break, that's got a real good chance, especially with young Ben Smith taking off £7 there. He'll be right down to almost his minimum at 9 stone 13. Good luck to them. I think it's also worth mentioning Little Miss Dante in that race for Ollie Murphy and Sean Bowen. She's back off a break and sure to run a good race too. We finish off with 2 divisions of the amateur riders handicap hurdle. I'm going to skip the first one, Robert, but I'm very interested in the second one. And this might be one for the home team. It's one for Ian Duncan with Stephen Connor, the Northern Irish jockey, coming over, and he's going to take the ride on Ian Duncan's Mora Jean. Now, this horse has been beaten twice since it won a handicap at Ayr, but he stuck the cheek pieces on for the first time at Perth tomorrow. Mora Jean off 11 stone 7. Stephen Connor taking off £3 over 3 miles. Let's be honest, it's not a great race in the context of this 3-day Perth Festival, and I think Mora Jean could be worth a bet in the lucky last 5:32 on Wednesday.
And then we move on to Thursday, where we start off 155 with a 2.5 mile novice hurdle. Mullins has got one in this, Magic McColgan for Kenny Alexander. Local owner, stays in Perth, well-known colours. I think the fact Paul Townend's staying over to ride one horse
Yeah.
on the Thursday is probably a signal that they think this thing will win. Not sure it'll get 100% its own way. Monge Bello had some nice form with Aurora Vega, who won at Fairyhouse on Sunday. So that one will be competitive. But I think if you read into things like jockey bookings and whatever, the fact that Paul Townend's going to be staying in Scotland the next night just to ride this horse on Thursday is probably a signal. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Monique Bello, at the first betting show I saw, I think Monique Bello was favourite, but I suspect Magic McColgan will go favourite, Robert. And I think for the reasons that you mentioned, Paul Townend staying over for the ride, running in the Kenny Alexander colours. Down the field in the Mayor's Novice at Cheltenham, midfield finish there, but very good form before that. Previously won at Punchestown. Monique Bello is a coast and distance winner at Perth. That has to be a plus. JJ Slevin in the saddle, and that Aurora Vega form, as you say, is now looking very good indeed. That one denying a 40-1 chance from the Fergal O'Brien stable in the Grade 1 rather, race at Fairyhouse the other days. But it looks as though it's between the two. It's difficult to push anything else into the race, even though Lucinda Russell runs Visual Impact, which has finished second the last twice. But I think on this occasion, Magic McColgan for Paul Townend and Willie Mullins might get a few extra shekels in the bag for them.
Yeah, and then 225, a 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. Now, Jeremy Scott's not a name you see coming up to Perth very often, so
No.
I went and dug into his record here, and since 2009 he's had 6 runners, 2 winners, 2 seconds, a third and a fourth, so that piqued my interest quite a bit. And the Sainted Canary in this race looks to have a real chance. I mean, it was second to Regent Stroll at Wincanton off level weight, stepping up to 2.5 for the first time. We saw what that one went and did at Aintree in the Grade 1, just got touched off next time out. This horse is in here off 113, which, if you're reading anything literal about the form of Regent Stroll, 113 has to be a very, very
Yeah.
easy mark. So I think the Sainted Canary, when you add in Jeremy Scott's form, don't think he sends him up here just for a laugh. So I think the Sainted Canary, obviously, we don't have a price yet at the moment, but you would expect other people have looked in, and the market makers will have looked into Region Stowe Farm. It'll be fairly short, but if it is fairly short, it'll deserve to be.
Yeah, I'm absolutely terrified of the Sainted Canary, especially with that Jeremy Scott record, Robert. But I'm very, very loyal on this occasion to a horse I tipped a couple of weeks ago and I thought ran a very good race without winning. And that's Barra Tablet for Nicky Richards and Danny McMenamin. Maybe 3 miles wasn't the best idea at Ayr a couple of weeks ago, back down to 2.5 here. Jimmy Fife, the owner, he's having a tremendous time, of course, not to mention Dundee United's form in the Premiership. But Barra Tablet, a horse very much on the upgrade, maybe just taking off his feet a wee bit, even though it was 3 miles last time, maybe didn't get home the way they expected it to, back down to 2.5. Danny McMenamin in the plate. And I think that third at Ayr behind Kidwekos was very, very good form. It was probably a better class 3, a very good class 3 compared to this class 4 down in class Barra Tablet. And I think the drop back to 2.5 miles might just suit. But like you, I think that the Sainted Canary has to have a fantastic chance off that handicap mark, and I might even do the forecast, but Barra Tablet for me.
And then 255, another 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. I had heartbreak on Saturday at Carlisle when Cruden just couldn't quite get there and ended up going down a bit of nose or certainly a short head. So I'm going to use a form line through Cruden, but I need to stop picking horses. I can't pronounce their name as well. Altland Chorin, I think it'll be called, which beat Cruden 3 lengths at Newcastle, giving him £12. Cruden was second in this handicap off 111 on Saturday. So a mark 112 here for this horse looks really workable. So Alton Chorin and the 2.5 at 255, I think will certainly do for me. And then on to the 359, Jim, another 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. Have you got anything in this?
I did look at Hidden History for the Skeltons. I think he is going to pick up plenty of prize money over this 3 days, Robert. I think this might be one of the races that he picks up the full winner's quota, if you like. Harry's on it as well. Hidden History. He's up £7 for a win at Uttoxeter last time in what I thought was a better class 3 than this one. And I don't think he'll be a very big price. But as long as he's 2 to 194, then I'll certainly include him in my Yankee. Hidden History for me in that 359.
And then 433, a 2.5 mile chase. Sean Bourne Dr. Ken for Ollie Murphy.
Yeah.
I was impressed with his comeback, a 2 year break, second
Yeah.
at Perfecto at Kempton. He's on a mark 135, but I think if this horse had stayed fit, he would probably be a bit higher than that. So
Yeah.
he's had a good break since then. I think that race was back in November, so he's had a fair break since then. But I think the fact that Bowen rides this rather than riding for his dad in Statuorio, who's 4 out of 6 at Perth, having won the Perth Gold Cup a few years ago. I think the fact that Bowen chooses to ride this one's maybe a sign, and Dr. Ken will go close to the 433.
Yeah, I think this is a race I'll be coming to once I've seen a few other races over the course of those first 2 days. But the horse that I think both of our eyes should be drawn to is Dubai Days, which I think we both fancied at Haydock the other day, Robert, and was carried out by a loose horse. Could not believe our bad luck there. And obviously unseated Bruce Lynn. They've declared it again very, very quickly for this 2.5 mile handicap chase. And I think this horse is perfectly well handicapped. I mean, don't get the idea that he's just a veteran. He's an 11-year-old in top form. He would have run a big race at Haydock on Saturday. And I think way down on 10 stone 6, Dubai Days has a tremendous chance. But you have to respect Dr. Ken. And I wouldn't rule out that Skelton horse either helping him. So a very open race, and I'll decide nearer the time.
Yeah, and then in the last race on Thursday, I'm going to take a wild swing at one, Cuban Cigar, who, if you're looking at his recent form, you wouldn't be touching with a barge pole. But if you just go back to September, he was a good second to Here Comes Georgie under Conor McCann off 114. He's had such a bad winter, he's now off 103. And Conor McCann will ride again, taking 7 off. So back to good ground. We know he likes the track. I liked his run here back in September. So I think if Conor McCann can get a tune out of him, it'll be here. And he's handicapped to win a race like this, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to drop 2 in for these last 2 races. I'm going to go against you with Cuban Cigar with El Jeff, which is trained by Andrew Hamilton. It's going to be ridden by Alan Doyle. Now, this horse, since it won at Aintree last year off 109, it went up to 113, and it's now been dropped right back to 105. Alan Doyle rode it a couple of races ago. I think I saw it a couple of races ago, actually. I can't remember where it was, but it was walking around the paddock, and I thought that horse is going to win a race before the end of the season. I think it's very, very well handicapped in that 2 miler in against Cuban Cigar. And just in that last race on Thursday, I think it's well worth a mention here, Robert, for Belle of Annandale. Having its third run for Mike Smith, we mentioned Mike earlier. I think the money will be down for this one because Sean Bowen is going to be in the saddle on Belle of Annandale. Very, very decent horse for Adrian Keatley. And I think he's well worth a small bet on his third run for Mike Smith with Sean Bowen up. And Ben Smith actually rides Mike's other one in that race, Just Dotty. But I don't think you put Sean Bowen up on a second string, do you?
No, definitely not. And then we move on to Friday. Well, we don't have the decks for Friday yet, but we'll go through a couple of the races. There's a 2 mile Campbell and Son Roofing Novice Hurdle to kick us off. Bellamigo is a horse who's done really well for Nick Alexander, so I'm going to take a line through him. He's won twice since beating Spade Step Annette at Carlisle, Spade Step's last run. So I think that lineal form is definitely worth looking at. But you've got Ronnie's Rules for Skelton, Pleasington for Ollie Murphy, Sunart for Fergal O'Brien. So that's going to be a really competitive race. But I'll be keeping an eye out in the market to see what price Spade Step will be in that novice hurdle. Have you dug in on that, or do you want to move on to the Highland National?
Not in that race, Robert, but I'm fascinated by the race, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I think once we see the decks for that race, it could be very, very interesting indeed. That Class 4 that gets us off the mark on Friday. But like you, I'm going to get right into that Highland National over very, very close to 3 miles and 7 furlongs at Perth on Thursday. And the one I've picked out here, and I will be looking for a decent price because I've got a right good hunch that this is going to run a good race, and that's Busty Boy for Dara Burke and Danny McMenamin. Now, he's a horse that has finished second 6 times since his last win. He has to be produced just at the right time, but a couple of times he's just been produced at the wrong time, and I think they'll hold him up well off the pace, and they'll come and try and pinch the race. Remember, it's 3¾ miles plus. I think Busty Boy is handicapped to run a huge race on Friday, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the prices for that. But it's a very, very open race, and again, without the declarations, I think you have to consider Jack's Parrot for the Greenall Guerriero team, with the likelihood of Henry Brook going to be on that. I see Harry Cobden has jocked up on Iupu Colonges for Paul Nicholls. You have to think that Paul, whose horses are in magnificent form, aren't they? They were going really well at Plumpton the other day as well. And Inishore, if it runs, I think you couldn't rule out Lucinda Russell's there because it has been slightly unfortunate the last twice. But I'm just going to take a chance here. I'm hoping it's a decent each way price, but I suspect it'll be about 8 to 10 to 1. And that's Busty Boy for Danny McMenamin in that Highland National. What about you?
Well, we've got 2 former winners coming back to try and win it again. We've got Bretney, last year's winner, although he's £9 higher, having won the Borders National. We know he gets a trip, but he's been pulled up the last twice. £9 higher, maybe stop him. We've also got If Not for Dylan, who's £3 higher than when he won it, but he's switched stables and really encouraging win at Newcastle the last time out, beating Tuesday News. He's switched to Lucinda Russell's stable, so he's a 2023 winner. So If Not for Dylan, I think would have a little squeak. Snipe, who I quite liked in the Scottish National, and that got wiped out by a faller.
It did.
Definitely be of interest again. And the other one I thought was Wild Bucks for Lucinda, who just looks a big slow boat, who kind of wants a trip like this. And off a mark of 113, he probably should be better than that. So plenty to look forward to when the decks come out. The other one's maybe Fairlawn Flyer, who ran in the race 2 years ago of £15 higher, but he's kind of climbing back up again and back-to-back wins at Huntingdon Market Raising. He seems to be in some decent form, and I always think the Bowen horses are worth a second look at this meeting.
Yeah, he sends a lot of horses up, Peter Bowen, and they always seem to run well, Robert. So like you, I would not rule out anything that he sends up. And just interesting, I noticed in the paper the other day that Mikey Bowen's going to get the licence next year. So Peter handing it over to Mikey. So he'll be racing all the horses, and of course you've got James and Sean winning all the races in the saddle. So that's going to be three brothers to contend with next year. So yeah, fascinating race for that Highland National. We look forward to that on Friday. I don't know if you're going to throw in Nelson on Friday. I'm just interested to see if Confusion is declared for that Alistair Down Novices handicap chase at 240. There's won 2 out of the last 3. I think Danny McMenamin is jocked up. I know you like the horse as well. Would you go against it if it's declared in at 2:40 Friday?
Possibly, I just think the legislator who bounced back to form at Wetherby at a big price. I'm not sure he was expected to win the way he won that day because
Maybe not. Yeah,
I'm not sure he would have been 16-1. But I mean, he'd had a long layoff for injury, but I'd be amazed if he's no better than 112. He's had a few entries lately and been pulled out because of the ground.
mm,
So we'll wait and see if he's declared. But I think he's a horse that off that mark, 112, I think is pretty light for him. So confusion, no. I mean, it was a horse we talked about the last time, and he won really,
yeah,
really well. So looks a really, really competitive race and named after the legendary Alistair Down, which is a
yeah.
lovely touch.
Do you know any of the background to that? Why they're naming one after Alistair?
It's actually a friend of my dad's sponsoring the race, and he was a huge
Excellent.
fan of Alistair Down's writing, so he just decided to name it the Alistair Down Novice Handicap. So that's the reason.
That's a tremendous. That's a great story. Well done, Alistair Down, novices handicap chase at Perth. Delighted.
There you go, folks. Thanks very much, and hopefully a productive 3 days at Perth. Cheers.
Enjoy, everybody. Thank you.